mother's birthday, you give them a gift. When it's your dad's birthday, you give them, what do you give to your country?
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here it goes. Hello, this is Laszlo X Laszlo, and welcome to another episode of Evil O. First interview I've done in over 6 weeks, I think it is. And today we're very fortunate to be talking to an artist many people know, but they probably don't know enough about. But before I make the actual introduction, I'm just going to say, please like and subscribe right away. It really helps the channel, keeps it going. Okay, don't forget to do that. And I'm going to introduce right away one Shelly Jyoti. How are you, Shelly?
Thank you so much, Vasu. Thank you so much for inviting me for your conversation series, Evil O.
Yeah, and where are you today? You're in Gurgaon, right?
Yes, I'm in Gurgaon.
Okay. So, I know a little bit about your art. I don't know as much as I should, but I do know that you've had a very strong connection with Gandhi and a strong connection with fabric, specifically khadi.
Right.
So let's go there. You've had a series of wonderful exhibitions, such as Salt is one of them, I remember. Why don't we just start out with talking about how you got interested in Gandhi and khadi and how these exhibitions developed? Can you just tell us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So my work I'm a visual and a textile artist, and my work has a background of literature, fashion, and textiles. That's my background. So that shows predominantly as I move on in doing what I do. My art practice, I would say, has two components. One is Gandhi and his philosophies for building moral and peaceful societies. So the premise of my work is building moral and peaceful societies. I touch upon Gandhi's philosophies, which are relevant to the 21st century. So I have touched upon four of Gandhi's ideas, which has a Sanskrit etymology, Swadharma. I'll explain them as I move on. Swadharma, Sarvodaya, Swadeshi, and Swaraj. So these four ideas where Gandhi experimented for his nation building. Nation building for fighting the British, as well as community building. So I touched upon those ideas and I built up four bodies of work on a title: Indigo Narrative, Salt the Great March, Just 5 Meters Khadi March, Swaraj, and my next show, which will open up by this October.
That's right. You have a show coming up, which we're eagerly waiting for. Where's that show going to take place?
This show, which I'm referring to right now, is going to be a virtual show. But the show probably you're mentioning is the one which is going to be in Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design.
Oh, yes, my hometown.
Yes.
My hometown of Milwaukee, my native place, my village.
I remembered you every time while I was creating. I said, this is going to go to Vasu's town, this artwork. So this is a very interesting show on a title, Reimagining Global Village. And this institute invited artists who had collaborated at some point of time, and their collaborations have been immense value, not only to each other, but also to the countries. So I had collaborated with an artist, American artist called Laura Kina in 2008. And hence this show came up where I created one huge work, and Laura, both of us are collaborating together to make a big piece.
The Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design is a wonderful space. It's right on the river.
Right.
and it's got very nice gallery space, and they have a couple other subsidiary spaces that are in different locations in the city. But it's
Uh-huh.
quite a big art institute actually. Of
Uh-huh.
course, it's overshadowed by the Art Institute of Chicago. Who's curating the show?
So this is being curated by Nirmal Raja.
Nirmal Raja. Okay, good. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
And
know her.
she has a very intense body of work touching upon socio-political times that we are in. I love her works, and her works also touch textiles. She does work a lot on textiles.
I remember she made an installation at God, I've been away from Milwaukee for so long. The Villa Terrace Art Museum
Mm-hmm.
in Milwaukee, which is a small art museum,
Mm-hmm.
but she made a beautiful installation
Yeah.
there. I also remember Nirmal drove all the way down to Chicago when I gave my talk at the Art Institute there.
Mm-hmm.
She came down for the talk, which was very nice of her because that's a pretty long drive.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
So probably this was her baby. The thought process was her baby, reimagining Global Village. And then she invited the artists all over the world who collaborated at some point of the time.
okay.
So
Well, that's we
we were talking about my art practice. So one is
yeah, we
Gandhi.
jumped ahead. We've got to
Right.
get back to what you were talking about.
Yeah. So one is Gandhi and his philosophies in relevance to the 21st century. And the second is my visual language. And my visual language is a textile tradition called Ajrak. Ajrak dates back perhaps to 4,500-year-old. And the Indus Valley civilization people were also using it for their textiles. And I touched upon indigo Ajrak when I was researching on indigo narrative show of mine. Ajrak means indigo. The word Ajrak means indigo. And hence I wanted to find out what is the contemporary interpretation in the textiles today. And that was my first brush with Gandhi on a serious note.
Right.
But Ajrak also on a serious note. And I fell in love with the tradition. It's extremely complicated. It's extremely laborious. And
how do you pronounce it? Ajrak?
Ajrak, A-J, let's say in Hindi we say Ajrak. It also means Aaj ke din rak.
Ajrak.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah.
Ajrak. And does it just refer to printing with indigo, or is it a special type of woodblock printing, or what is it?
See, historically, there was only indigo. And if I say it is a 4,500-year-old technique, they began with Ajrak, which is indigo. But as the natural dyes started to be coming in, and so they were using all the natural dyes like the red and the greens and the blue, the major natural dyes. So today I work with the 9th and the 10th generation of Ajrak craftsmen, who is Ismail Bhai Khatri and his son Junaid. And they only work with natural dyes, but the craftsmen have to also look at the market needs and the trends. So if the market is not giving them enough money and natural dyes are expensive and they may not be, they have figured out to have a utility and a longevity of the printing and the final fabric. But for the market, they may use the chemical dyes. The other craftsmen may be using it. So, but the market has Ajrak with the chemical dyes. I use, and Ismail Bhai Khatri and the whole family uses natural dyes.
I read recently, and I was very surprised, but apparently there's a small village very near Chittor here in Rajasthan, very close to where I live, in which they had a tradition of printing with indigo, and I believe it was the same term they used, Ajrak.
Yeah, sure.
But they said it was dying out. There were very few people who were still doing it.
That's right. You're right, absolutely. So all these people came from Sindh and Baluchistan.
Okay.
So the story as it goes, these are long stories. And when you go and work in Bhuj, You talk to the craftsmen and you get the local folk stories out of them. So every 400 years, there's an earthquake in Gujarat, which one of them we saw when we were living there. So that's the time the emperors, or in today's day and age, the bureaucrats, they try and resettle the towns. So those days, the king, erstwhile king Bhaji Rao, or some name like that, he invited these craftsmen and many other communities to come and settle down in Bhuj. And hence these people came from Sindh and Baluchistan. So major of them came here in Gujarat, and a few of them went to Barmer in this place which you are referring to, Rajasthan.
Oh, okay.
So you were right. You were right. What
you know the history.
Yes, a little bit. Yes.
Okay. So tell us about like your works themselves. Like your works are made out of fabric.
Yes.
And they're dyed.
Yes.
They're woven.
No, they're not woven.
No?
Well, they are. They are. Khadi is woven. Khadi is woven.
The khadi is woven. Yes.
Okay, let me explain that.
You can explain your works, I think I'd like. And I know you do different types of works, but just explain some of your works. And then we can insert images here of what the works are.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So when I say I work with Ajrak Designs, let me first explain to you how I create my body of work. So it takes me almost about 2 years to kind of research on what I'm talking about. For example, if I'm talking about Swadharma, I'm talking about Sarvodaya. So I'm trying to understand Gandhi and how I can narrate his story to the newer generation through art. So about 2 years. So it takes me a year and a half to research, go on reading and finding out and finding my inspirational moments and creating them. And while I'm reading, I don't know whether it's true with other people, but with me, words inspire me. When I read something, I actually see something. When I read something, I visualize. So when I am visualizing something, I'm constantly, within the book only, I'm drawing. I'm constantly sketching. So when I finish with my reading and I feel I've read enough, I think these are the mood points where I was highly inspired. So this is the storyline I need to narrate. So I quickly put them on the paper. I have these big imperial size sheets where I sketch them fully sketch. If I'm talking about flag series, all the flags will be there on the paper with details of which block goes where. If I'm talking about fashion accessories, if I'm talking about fashion, these are the segments that I created in the Khadi March. The fashion segment, if I'm creating just the timeless silhouettes, each silhouette will be on the paper with the name of the block there for my artisan when I'm standing there to tell them these are the blocks I'm going to be using. So all these.
So it starts with research.
Yes.
Then it goes to doing these large scale drawings.
Yes.
After notebook drawings, I assume.
Right.
And then the large scale drawings.
Right.
And then you transfer it over to woodblock printmakers?
No, on the normal imperial sheets, big sheets like these, bigger sheets like these, because my artwork could be much bigger than this, but there is a technique called masking and cutting. Okay. So I create all of them here in this studio, in my Gurgaon studio, and I wrap them up and travel, take a flight to Bombay, and then stay a night in a hotel there because there's no direct flight to Bhuj, and then take a flight to Bhuj next day morning, stay in the hotel for 20, if not 25 days, and hire a cab for almost as long as I'm there, picks me and drops me. And then once I go there, day one, I talk only to my craftsmen and explain to them that I am talking about Swadharma. What is Swadharma? Let me just, because I'll use this word often, so let me just explain what Swadharma is. Swadharam is, Swa is self, Dharam is duty, my duty. So I have my duty towards my children, my family. I was questioning through my work, through all my works, where is my duty towards my country? Other than 15th August and the 26th January, when we all sing patriotic songs and wear the saffron, white, and green, I was questioning, where is my duty towards my country? And and what can we do? So when I speak to high school kids, I said, when it's your mother's birthday, you give them a gift. When it's your dad's birthday, you give them, what do you give to your country? So there was this quote of Gandhi where he said, instead of giving 3 paisa to the spinner and weavers, give them 3 annas. And that would be Swaraj for them. Swaraj is independence. Swaraj. Swa is self and Raj is to rule. He said that would mean independence, for economic independence for the spinners and weavers. And that was the genesis of my show, the Khadi March, just 5 meters. So I thought that 30 crore urban population, as a swadharma, as a duty towards my country, buys 5 meters of hand-spun, hand-woven khadar, khadi, just once a year. It's such an effortless thing. Vasu, you go and buy a shirt like this, and buy 5
this
meters.
Shirt here, this
Yes.
one.
Yes.
I think this might be indigo too. I'm not sure, but I think so.
This is the regular block printing.
Yeah.
I'm seeing. So that 5 meters, when you do it, when you go and buy that 5 meters, thinking you're doing it for your country, there's a feel good factor. You know, I did it for my country. So if you get that good feeling good factor, and I get it, and 30 crore does it, even if 10 crore gets it,
I think if I can just interject sort of a different subject here, because I think about this a lot lately myself. You speak of duty to country, and I feel that's something that's been so lost in the West, you know, that feeling of duty to country, because everybody's so self-involved
Right.
in, you know, their own pursuit of materialism or wealth or whatever it might be, relationships. But I do feel we have a duty to country, and that's a different thing than like blind nationalism to me.
No,
you know,
no, that's different.
One doesn't really give anything to the country. It just waves flags and shouts slogans.
And do you know, Vasu, that is why Gandhi was very against the Western modernity. His book, Hind Swaraj, written 100 years ago, it's worth reading. And every word that he writes, it's a biggest critique of Western modernity, that India is a civilization of its own. It cannot follow the Western industrialized model for our own country. We are a country, we are a civilization who believe in doing for each other. So as and when the economic progress took place for India, the urban cities, we lost out on feeling for each other.
I mean, I see that all the time in India, and I don't see it in the US. I mean, in the US, like if your car breaks down on the street or something, you might be lucky and somebody might stop and help you. But if they do, you sort of take note of it and you say, oh, wow, thank you. You know, it's really nice that you helped me. Whereas in India, it's like, it's just natural. Of course, people are going to come over and help you. That's just what people do. Yeah. You know, of course they will. You don't even question it. They don't question it.
From the perspective of Gandhi, we were still losing out. So these bars are different, what you're mentioning. So from the people who had, Gandhi was constantly giving messages to the urban society that, you know, you need to connect with the spinners and weavers. No. And that is how you will connect with them. So material success is not as important. So then it was his next, which Martin Luther King was most impressed by, was Sarvodaya, Sabka Bhala Ho, Sabka Uday Ho, which means upliftment of all. So today we are in this pandemic times, the tumultuous phase that we are in. None of us know how this virus is affecting all of us. But we all know one thing, that we need to help each other. The mask that we are wearing is not only for us. If this is a constant reminder to us, this mask that we are wearing is not only for us, it is for you as well.
It's for the society.
That's for the society.
It's actually more for the society than it is for you.
So this is Sarvodaya, which means upliftment of all, and that is where I touched upon his idea of Swadharma and Sarvodaya in Salt the Great March Show.
Right.
And when I moved on to the Khadi marches, 5 meters, I was exploring the idea of how the 30 crore urban population can support the 70 crore rural population who are just spinners and weavers, and they are where they were. We are living in the villages. When I go internationally to show my works, people are so impressed, not by me. They're impressed by the culture I'm coming from. They're impressed.
So can we talk a little bit about the imagery in your work? Like, what
yes,
does
sure.
work actually portray? You know, because people want to see images here, and you can maybe talk about some of your
absolutely
images. How do you approach that?
So yes. So now let me go back. The idea which I just referred to you about 30 crore urban population and the 70 crore rural population, I came up with an installation, which was a 10-feet installation where I picked up these hand-spun threads, just the threads, cotton threads, which on the spinning wheel we create. And there were thousands of meters which I procured from Khadi Village Industry Commission, and I hung it from about 10 feet high. And all I was trying to say is that if you support these rural population, they will progress. And also in that idea of 30 crore urban population, I was exploring the idea of consumption. We will buy 5 meters, but there is a production there at the other end in the villages. So this is, I'll mail you those images. So this is one of my installation, which probably now after 10 years and having different shows, I feel all my artworks revolve around this installation, which has the strongest meaning or a narrative of supporting.
This is the one I've seen that's very tall and it's white and it sort of cascades down with all the fabric. Yeah, that's a beautiful installation.
And I macrameed it, I knotted it, and so it was a pleasure creating that installation. The second artwork which I should mention to you which is again very relevant from today's perspective, but I created it in my last show, which is Swaraj, on a title, The Dusk Moment. The dusk moment is a word in Gujarati called Godhili. Gaudhuli means when in the evening when the dusk takes place. So I created ajrak, 2 big balls. I'll send you an image of that. And I printed, so every print that I put in my ajrak, it has a meaning. You know, a block is a block. It can have different patterns, but my mind is constantly working that I am trying to convey a sense of the line of terminator. What is a line of terminator? That line of horizon. So one split moment is going to be a day, and one split moment is going to be night. So this is the line of terminator, and these pandemic times that we are in, this is the moment we need to stop, pause, and think. What we are doing, are we gauging the material success more important than our personal self-realizations and self-control? And so the content of my work underlying is also self-realization, self-awareness, self-duty. And that moves on towards what I've been referring to.
Right.
And
I can tell you a little bit about myself. When I was younger, I was fortunate enough. I actually bought a big old Victorian home when I was only 20 years old in Milwaukee. It's in a bad neighborhood, quote unquote, bad neighborhood. But we restored it. and we got the neighborhood on the National Register of Historic Places. But I was very materialistic at the time. I wanted the big house and I wanted it filled with Victorian furniture that I had inherited some from my grandmother and my uncle and all of this. And all of that was so important to me. And then later, when I moved to a smaller apartment, I had to downsize. And then Tommy and I took a trip to Italy. We lived in Florence for 6 months. And we had a nice apartment, but it was furnished so minimally. It had very little other than art on the walls. And we swore to ourselves, we said, when we go back to Milwaukee, we want to live like this. We had a big estate sale and we sold nearly everything. And all we had in our apartment, we said we wanted just like five little cheap chairs, very cheap chairs, and look like a gallery and just have art on the walls and no furniture.
How beautiful.
And people would walk in and always be surprised and say, it looks like an art gallery. And it was like, well, that's the way we want it to look. We want to live now. But there is something freeing about that. And, your possessions start to own you.
Yeah.
After a while.
Yeah, I think a lot depends on where you're coming from and your thought process. So many people in my exhibitions always ask me, why Gandhi? And then the answer to that, I actually got on to thinking, why Gandhi? Because let me take back, I am a generation which came after 10 years after India's independence. So we were raised on the stories of India's independence from 1920 and 47. And few of us, like my mother was from Kashmir and she saw the partition and we heard those stories. But Vasu, the point was life came to a full circle. You can hear stories, but when you experience it yourself, that's when you realize what parents must have gone through. So in 2002, 2000 onwards, I brushed with the Gujaratroids. I was in Baroda. And in one split moment, our house was doused with the kerosene oil. And me and my husband are holding our children that, we're dead.
Yeah, horrible.
And then 26/11 took place. My husband was in the Taj Hotel that night. And we didn't know whether he's alive.
Oh my God.
So there is.
So you actually lived through two big disasters. Gujarat in 2002 and also the Taj Hotel.
The Taj Hotel. And then the country was going through this multiple mind-boggling scams with no accountability. That feeling of helplessness was for me the idea of Swadharma. I went deeper into to understand Gandhi at that point of time to understand what did he mean by Swadharma and how did he actually as a singular effort fight the country. And only by his first Champaran movement, where my Indigo show I refer to as that movement, is his singular fight with British only by writing letters. We were in Gujarat. I would travel down to Ahmedabad, Gandhi Ashram, and take permission and read all those letters that he had written to the British. And I would find the language so simple and so convincing. And if words can play that strong role for the British to get them going for his fight was for the indigo farmers, and he could succeed in that first satyagraha of his. And then
that's what struck me in one of your artist statements that I read before we started this interview is you were talking about doing what you can within the space that you can. I don't know if you remember where you wrote that, but making the changes in your own life rather than trying to make changes in the wider society. Because when you make changes in your own life and in your own neighborhood, that's what causes the actual change. Yeah. And I feel that's a big problem in our current age because everybody virtue signals on Facebook and they like I do. I write these long rants on Facebook. And then I think like, why am I doing this? It'd be better if I wrote an article or sent a letter to a politician or something like that.
Yeah.
To be achieving much more. But the main thing is to change yourself and change yourself, how you think.
Yeah. So it's self. I can't change my children. How about changing the world? No way. So if
Yeah,
you have to self-discipline yourself, you have to and for that you need a self-control.
yeah.
And all this leads you to self-realization. And I am also, as an individual, in quest of truth. I read a lot of Vedic literature. And Gandhi, again, I'm coming to Gandhi. In the Hind Swaraj, in Prelude, Gandhi writes himself, this book is written by me and not by me. Written by me because I'm writing it, not by me because these are not my philosophies. None of these are Gandhi's philosophies. Swadharma, Sarvodaya, Swaraj, none. They are all coming out of our Vedic literature, where he imbibed it through his parents, through his mother particularly, and of course, he was highly influenced by Thoreau, Leo, and Tolstoy. But what I'm trying to say is it has to come from within you, and only you can change yourself. If you change yourself, and you will be fortunate, your children are watching you, how the parents are walking, and they walk that same language. It's very invisible thing. So,
Right.
so you do your bit, so we do our own bit, and leave the rest. And
Well, I always loved Gandhi growing up in the US. I mean, he was always a hero of mine. You know,
yeah,
many Americans study Gandhi in school, and especially during the hippie movement in the 60s
right.
and the early 70s, Gandhi was a big hero for many of
I,
us.
I was absolutely honored when I was invited by Stanford 2 years back. They had a Martin Luther King and Gandhi conference. And, it was so humbling for me that, I'm just an artist. And there are people who are the generations of Martin Luther King attending that conference. And I am just a small artist. And I have to tell you the kind of respect and honor they give you for your art, as if I have created something out of the world, which is not. I mean, for me, I am passionate about what I'm doing. There's no doubt about it. I'm very deep into Gandhi and his philosophies. I'm very deep into the Vedantic literature. And all this comprises me. So hence my artwork is an extension of who I am.
So this is beginning to run a little long. I'm trying to keep them not too long, otherwise people don't get through the whole video.
Absolutely.
Why don't we conclude? Tell us a little bit about your upcoming show.
Yes, sure. So this upcoming show would be on a title, Epoch 2020.
Okay.
We are in the epoch.
Yeah.
And this epoch is not going anywhere, which we call as e-push. I'll just read two lines, and that'll explain. I'll end with this poetry, which is a part of that show.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What lies behind, I don't remember. What lies ahead, I can't foresee. What is time, I know not. You ask, it's temporal. Out of rhythm, crazy, unseen. Reconstructing as I breathe. Reconstruction as we move on. Without we reconstruct ourselves, we cannot move on. The poetry is finished, but I'm just trying to explain my thought here that this time of pandemic, it's not going to go overnight. It's just not going to go overnight. It is, even if 1.3 billion Indians get vaccinated, the after effects of this pandemic will remain for years to come.
Well,
so the reconstruction of individual is very important.
The pandemic has destroyed families, people who have died. It's destroyed small businesses. I mean, it's just really hurt so many people.
So when Spanish flu took place 100 years back, and it took almost a decade for the times to get normal and generations like us to live a century of luxury. And if not century, almost about 60, 70 years of that luxurious life which we've been leading, where everything is at the back of our hand. We will snap a finger, the lights will be on, and this will again take time.
And when you grow up in that environment, you think that's the natural state of things and it'll never change. And it's so ironic because right before this pandemic happened, I was coming back from the studio with Ganpat, and we were on the Jeep or the motorcycle, I don't know what. But I remember saying, I said, enjoy your life now. Things are really good in the world, and be happy, because things can change at a moment. I said, you never know what's going to happen. You might go to war with Pakistan. You might go to war with China. There might be a pandemic. I actually used those words, and like 2 months later,
another mutation came in. Another Delta variant came in, where Delta variant came in.
Yeah. So I mean, that causes a difference between generations. My father was like the Depression generation and the World War II generation. And he very much had an idea of how the luxury, I will say, that I grew up with in the US was fought and died for and struggled for. Wasn't always that way,
Mm-hmm.
It was built.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, experiences teach you a lot in life.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been wonderful talking to you. Anything more about your show?
Fine. I mean, you probably have your 30 minutes to go. I'm absolutely okay.
I love the poetry.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I've been writing poetry since my childhood. And for me, probably I should mention this. When I say it takes me about 2 years to research on a subject and then come out with my artwork. My first outpour is a poetry. When I feel, and that is over a period of time, I realized it is a kind of catharsis where I feel I've read enough.
Yeah.
And then the words come in, and then my artwork begins. Unless and I don't know, for some reason, while I'm writing, there are these tears which are flowing, and I'm writing. It takes me, and my poetries are really long, 180 lines, and probably it's that intensive study which one has done and gone through those moments of inspirations. And one doesn't know whether you are in the right direction. As an artist, you never know you're in the right direction, but you are you're trying to do something.
Right.
So this new work that you mentioned is this poetry that you like. The new works is the rebirth of my old works. So I can't travel to Bhuj. So I am translating all my old works, few of them where I feel is important, on a paper as a print. And then a couple of layers coming on top of them.
Are you traveling to Milwaukee?
I might if things are better.
Oh, well, I think you should. Milwaukee's quite fun. There's a beautiful art center on the lake, the Calatrava Designed Art Center. You would love to go.
They've invited me. They said you must come. Would love to have a talk from you, but I don't think so. I can go if September, October is not. October is still, I don't think so. Country will open up. Yeah, by December, if things get better, maybe.
I'm still trying to get to Thailand to see Tommy, but that will probably happen, I hope.
I wish you all
maybe in August. Anyway, Shelley Jody, it was wonderful talking to you. I'm going to say goodbye. So this is Evil O coming to you again from Udaipur. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Clubhouse now every Monday evening at 7 o'clock. We have a Clubhouse chat with somebody. Those are interesting, so follow me there as well. Shelley, wave goodbye. Everybody has to wave goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Shelley. Okay, bye. Thank you.